very interesting use case for AI is also clear. Like it's not hard to get that, I would say.
Yeah.
I think I think the I'm like a maybe nitpicky thing on the first half is I would say, I think some of the numbers around what was done previously, like those numbers could even be brought earlier, saying like this is how many conversations we had in our previous business or the first iteration of this business. I think that didn't show up until maybe.
Yeah, it was way further back, and we just brought it forward. But you're saying maybe not far forward enough.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think they're really impactful. And so I don't know. You can test it out, but I think I'm like a very numbers oriented person, and so I think that, and I think a lot of investors tend to be, and they get caught up in the numbers, and I think it's just that like.
That's why we brought it forward. Everybody has been saying that, but it's like we just brought it forward, and now we're thinking maybe we should have brought it further forward. But that's good feedback.
Okay. So anyway, I think that's kind of, but the part that I felt was not as strong is the second half, in the sense that like I think this is, I don't know how to do this necessarily, but I almost feel like you can go towards like more powerful demos of the generic feedback from like ChatGPT versus Riz versus what we can do.
Yeah.
Like in a more live way, in like a demo way. Doesn't have to be a live demo, but like in something that feels, because right, like, I don't know, slide 5 or 6 into the presentation, you mentioned like the 3 main apps and the use cases, and I'm like, okay, that all makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's all about how much better are you out of the gate versus out.
Okay, makes sense.
Or describing why you're better, but why don't you just show that you're better?
Yeah, makes sense. We created a demo video that is specifically for people who ask that question, so that who bring that up, so we can show them in a little bit more demo fashion what that looks like. But we could also just bring it right into the presentation, or maybe it's going to need to be a little bit different video though than it was kind of a Q&A video.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can figure that out, but like for me, it's kind of like pictures worth 1,000 words type of situation.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's like I don't have a sense of, are you incrementally 10x better?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Right. I think that's one piece, and then I think the second piece is kind of like, if you're significantly better, but you're like not 10x better, you're 2x better or 3x better, whatever, like however you want to think about it. Then the other question is like, how do you keep gaining advantage? Like, is it about how much money you raise? Is it about like how many users and conversations you get? Like, I think I'm trying to understand, and this gets into some of the particularities of like AI, like small language models, I guess, which I do not understand at all. But it's like, okay, I understand like today, maybe you have like proprietary or like a bunch of proprietary data.
Yeah.
But like that data advantage is going to go away fairly fast, I would say. Like, if Riz has like lots of users, I assume that your data advantage goes away very fast. Now, I could be wrong about that assumption, so you should kind of talk about explicitly why that kind of assumption is wrong. Or like on the other hand, it's saying like, what is it about your team or your approach or your understanding of how to build product? Because one thing is like the actual AI data thing, and then the other one is about like your understanding of how people, like the user experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I've but do you understand my point about that? Like either existing advantage or continued advantage?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's like one of the things that we've considered talking about. It's so hard to figure out what to talk about and what not to talk about. But like for Riz, for example, they don't have a feedback loop in terms of what users are sending and if it's working or not. We're going to have one from day one, so we can actually start to track and learn from our users from the beginning. So they haven't really built it. All their thing is like, it's like you take a screenshot and it gives you a message idea, but it doesn't thread those messages, so it doesn't know if they responded or not. And we're threading. Everything is going to be in a thread. Like you'll have one thread per person you're talking to, and you go in that thread to upload the next message, so we'll know what was sent and whether it was responded. So there is a way we can do that. It's just like, it's just for us. That's like one of the biggest challenges. Like to know of the 1,000 things that we think are important. Like what are the 7 that investors really care about? You know, and we're still trying to figure that out through these conversations.
Okay. But that's an infrastructural decision that you think is hard for other people to make?
It's not necessarily hard for them to do. I mean, if we get a lot of users quickly, our data set's going to be bigger than anyone else's, and we'll be able to just continue to move faster than anyone else with the right team. But there's not, like, the moat against someone like Riz is different than the moat against someone like ChatGPT or the dating apps. They're kind of different. They're different. They're just different moats. They're different beats. Every single one of them is different in terms of how we defend ourselves. And we try to talk a little bit about that on the competitive advantage slide, but we could definitely go deeper.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think that's, it's not really about the slide, but at least, like, for me, I would like break it down a little bit more, like for those 3 different groups or specific players is like, what is your advantage today and what is your advantage in the future?
Yeah.
When that head start advantage is not really
for sure
there, you know?
Yeah. Understood.
And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, I'm not saying that it's still very early, right? So investors are not going to expect that, you know, somehow you have a complete moat that nobody is ever going to be able to compete with you on. Like, that's not the threshold. But I just think that at least in the way that it was when you went through it in the pitch, it wasn't, there wasn't that differentiation between like the competitive advantage now and future and how to quantify that as well, or at least make it like more tangible. And then I think the other piece of it is just, I don't know, maybe I also don't understand the industry enough, but I just like, it wasn't like, it didn't stick. It didn't click immediately for me.
Yeah. It's good feedback.
I mean, ChatGPT, I kind of get, like, everybody kind of understands that, you know, specialization is important, but I think like the dating apps themselves and Riz, I wasn't quite sure that I believe, like I wasn't convinced.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Because like, let's go to let's think about the dating apps for a second, right? Like, I feel like all businesses that are like those businesses that are going to be hugely disrupted by AI, like they've all been freaking themselves out over the course of the last year and a half. And so like, I would be surprised if they're not like putting tons of resources into this direction.
Yeah.
Like, I see it with my ed tech, like my friends that have ed techs, like they shot in their pants, like basically a year ago, and they've all been like, and their boards and everything are so on top of it.
Yeah. The thing about the dating apps is that they can't really build the way that's going to be the most useful. Like what we're doing, for example, with the one feature that's similar to what Riz has is the message magic. It you know, it gives you like a charming, witty response to any message, right? if they give users that on an app like Tinder or Bumble, it kills the entire platform, because now their most valuable users, the female side of their user base, in the hetero market, is it can't tell who's smooth and who's not. Like, everything is AI, and it's like, what is this? And so, and in terms of like dating advice, like if they maybe create like a chatbot dating coach, like a lot of the dating advice that men are going to want and women are going to want in many cases are just going to be like real advice, not like, some PhD who's like, representing a big corporate brand. And that's the kind of advice that they give. Anytime that any dating site, and since I've been running this company in the last 15 years, anytime they provide dating advice, it's always like such careful advice that it's like useless almost. It's like, be yourself. And so yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident that within their platforms, they're not going to create something that's like truly useful. Can they provide competition to us? Yeah, sure. I mean, but one of the things that we know, for example, is that Riz, the competitor, they're doing like 40%, I think, of their usage is like on platforms like iMessage and WhatsApp, right? So you start a conversation on the app, and you'll move it off the app. So like being platform agnostic and giving people real lines and advice that actually works is something that I think that we can do better than the dating apps. Time will tell, but I feel like they're going to build AI that's useful in some ways, but not what, especially our initial male-driven side of the market really needs.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from what you just said is, one, you've picked a very specific ICP customer that is actually somewhat less understood by dating apps, and that's just not their focus because of the traditional way, like the traditional like marketplace logic of dating apps. So they're like underserved.
Yeah, in a way, it's kind of in that area.
And then the other thing I've heard is about like platform agnostic, like you're building from a platform agnostic perspective rather than it's like one platform focused perspective.
Yeah, it can help you with any of your dating, anything dating, whether it's in person, on Instagram. A lot of dating doesn't happen on dating apps, and like our dating coach can help you anywhere. It's just we have a dating app focus because we know that's one place we can add a lot of value, and we have good data there. It's just a starting point, but we believe that the product is going to be much, much wider than dating app advice.
So I think that part didn't come through in the pitch.
Yeah. We try to like mention it, but yes, we could definitely emphasize that more.
Because I think for me, like I don't know what's the right storytelling or like kind of slide. But I think for me, the two things that came out in this like last minute or two that I don't think, I mean, maybe it's there, but it's not like emphasized throughout.
Yeah.
It is one, this kind of male underserved customer, like that makes a lot of sense to me. and I think that like that might be very important in terms of why you're successful, right? Yeah. And then the second part is that there's dating apps traditionally have been kind of the interface in which online dating or this new form of dating has transformed the dating world, but it's like very important, and it's only I don't know what the right representation is, but only X% of the time is spent on dating apps across the dating journey or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And dating apps don't really address that essentially. And this addresses that. So like you can almost like map that in terms of number of hours of saying like, this is how much dating apps address and this is how much like dating it's interaction is not through dating apps, and why your solution, basically is also through that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that makes a lot of sense.
And then I think if that like